Capital, Volume 1, by Karl Marx. Chapter 1, Section 1. The two factors of a commodity, use value and value, the substance of value and the magnitude of value. The wealth of those societies in which the capitalist mode of production prevails presents itself as, quote, an immense accumulation of commodities, end quote. Footnote. Karl Marx, Zur Kritik der politischen Ökonomie, Berlin, 1859, page 3, end footnote. Its unit being a single commodity. Our investigation must therefore begin with the analysis of a commodity. A commodity is, in the first place, an object outside us, a thing that by its properties satisfies human wants of some sort or another. The nature of such wants, whether for instance they spring from the stomach or from fancy, makes no difference. Footnote. Quote, desire implies want. It is the appetite of the mind, and as natural as hunger to the body. The greatest number of things have their value from supplying the wants of the mind. End quote. Nicholas Barban, A Discourse Concerning Coining the New Money Lighter in Answer to Mr. Locke's Considerations, etc., London, 1696. End footnote. Neither are we here concerned to know how the object satisfies these wants, whether directly as means of subsistence, or indirectly as means of production. Every useful thing, as iron, paper, etc., may be looked at from the 2 points of view of quality and quantity. It is an assemblage of many properties and may therefore be of use in various ways. To discover the various uses of things is the work of history. Footnote. Quote, things have an intrinsic value, end quote. This is Barban's special term for value in use. Quote, which in all places have the same virtue, as the lodestone to attract iron. End quote. The property which the magnet possesses of attracting iron became of use only after by means of that property the polarity of the magnet had been discovered. End footnote. So also is the establishment of socially recognized standards of measure for the quantities of these useful objects. The diversity of these measures has its origin partly in the diverse nature of the objects to be measured, partly in convention. The utility of a thing makes it a use value. Footnote. Quote, the natural worth of anything consists in its fitness to supply the necessities or serve the conveniences of human life. End quote. John Locke, Some Considerations on the Consequences of the Lowering of Interest, 1691. In English writers of the 17th century, we frequently find worth in the sense of value in use and value in the sense of exchange value. This is quite in accordance with the spirit of a language that likes to use a Teutonic word for the actual thing and a Romance word for its reflection. End footnote. But this utility is not a thing of air. Being limited by the physical properties of the commodity, it has no existence apart from that commodity. A commodity such as iron, corn, or a diamond is therefore, so far as it is a material thing, a use value, something useful. This property of a commodity is independent of the amount of labour required to appropriate its useful qualities. When treating of use value, we always assume to be dealing with definite quantities, such as dozens of watches, yards of linen, or tons of iron. The use values of commodities furnish the material for a special study, that of the commercial knowledge of commodities. Footnote. In bourgeois societies, the economic fictio juris prevails that everyone as a buyer possesses an encyclopedic knowledge of commodities. End footnote. Use values become a reality only by use or consumption. They also constitute the substance of all wealth, whatever may be the social form of that wealth. In the form of society we are about to consider, they are, in addition, the material depositories of exchange value. Exchange value at first sight presents itself as a quantitative relation, as the proportion in which values in use of one sort are exchanged for those of another sort. Footnote. Quote, La valeur consiste dans le rapport d'échange qui se trouve entre telle chose et telle autre, entre telle mesure d'une production et telle mesure d'une autre. End quote. Value consists in the exchange relation between one thing and another, between a given amount of one product and a given amount of another. Le Trosne, De l'intérêt social, Physiocrate, Paris, 1846. End footnote. A relation constantly changing with time and place. Hence exchange value appears to be something accidental and purely relative, and consequently an intrinsic value, i.e. an exchange value that is inseparably connected with, inherent in, commodities, seems a contradiction in terms. Footnote. Quote, nothing can have an intrinsic value. Nicholas Barban, or as Butler says, quote, the value of a thing is just as much as it will bring. End quote. Let us consider the matter a little more closely. A given commodity, for example a quarter of wheat, is exchanged for X blacking, Y silk, or Z gold, etc., in short, for other commodities in the most different proportions. Instead of one exchange value, the wheat has, therefore, a great many. But since X blacking, Y silk, or Z gold, etc., each represents the exchange value of one quarter of wheat, X blacking, Y silk, Z gold,